Before the story begins, let me ask you something quietly. Have you ever felt like you know what you should do, but the idea of doing it feels exhausting? Have you ever wanted to change your life, but felt too tired, too overwhelmed, or too late to even start? If yes, then this book was written for you. Today on English Bookshelf, we are not talking about hustle. We are not talking about grinding harder. We are not talking about turning your life upside down overnight. We are talking about something far more realistic, far more human, and far more powerful. This is Kazan by Sarah Harvey. And the idea at the heart of this book is almost disarmingly simple. You don't change your life in one dramatic moment. You change it in very small moments, repeated every day. The word Kazan comes from Japan. It means continuous improvement, not massive improvement, not instant transformation, just small, gentle progress. And in a world obsessed with fast success, this book feels like a deep breath. From the very beginning, Sarah Harvey challenges a belief most of us carry without questioning it. The belief that if we can't change everything, then there's no point changing anything. She shows us how this belief quietly keeps us stuck. We wait for motivation. We wait for energy. We wait for the perfect time. And while we wait, life stays exactly the same. Kazan offers a different path. It says, what if you didn't need motivation? What if you didn't need a perfect plan? What if all you needed was one tiny action, done consistently? This book is built for people who feel overwhelmed by big goals. People who have tried and failed before. People who blame themselves for not having enough discipline. Sarah Harvey is very gentle here. She doesn't shame you. She understands you. She explains that most people don't fail because they are lazy. They fail because they try to change too much, too fast. They set goals that demand willpower they don't yet have. They expect overnight results from habits that need time. And when they can't keep up, they quit. Kazan breaks this cycle. Instead of asking you to wake up 2 hours earlier, it asks you to wake up 5 minutes earlier. Instead of asking you to exercise for an hour, it asks you to move your body for 1 minute. Instead of asking you to fix your whole life, it asks you to improve one tiny part of your day. And this is where the magic begins. Because small actions don't trigger resistance. They don't scare the brain. They don't demand motivation. You don't need to feel ready to take a small step. You just take it. The book explains how our brains are wired to resist big change. Big change feels dangerous, uncertain, threatening. Small change feels safe. And safety is what allows consistency to grow. As the book moves forward, you start to realize something important. Kazan is not about doing less. It's about doing what you can actually sustain. One of the most powerful ideas in this book is that confidence is not built by thinking differently. It is built by keeping promises to yourself. Every tiny habit you complete sends a message to your brain. I can trust myself. And slowly, that trust compounds. You don't suddenly wake up confident. You earn it quietly. Sarah Harvey also talks deeply about self-compassion. Because Kazan is not just about habits. It is about how you talk to yourself when you fail. And you will fail sometimes. You will miss days. You will break streaks. You will fall back into old patterns. This book does not treat that as failure. It treats it as data. Something to learn from. Something to adjust. Because Kazan is flexible. It bends instead of breaking. The book reminds us that progress is not a straight line. It is a rhythm. Some days forward. Some days still. Some days backward. What matters is not perfection. What matters is returning. Again. And again. And again. As you listen to this book's message, something inside you softens. You stop attacking yourself for not being productive enough. You stop comparing your pace to others. You stop believing that change must hurt to be real. Kazan shows you a kinder way. A way where growth feels possible even on hard days. A way where improvement fits into real life, not fantasy routines. This book is especially powerful for people who feel burned out. People who are tired of extreme advice, people who want progress without punishment. By now, the listener understands something essential. Big results are built on small decisions, not once, but daily. And this is only the beginning. As Kazan moves deeper, something very quiet but very powerful begins to happen. The pressure you've been carrying starts to loosen, because this book is not trying to push you forward. It's teaching you how to stop pushing so hard. By now, Kazan has made one thing clear. Most of us don't need more ambition. We need a better relationship with effort. Sarah Harvey explains that we often treat change like a dramatic event. A new year, a new version of ourselves, a sudden transformation. And when that transformation doesn't happen fast enough, we assume something is wrong with us. But Kazan gently dismantles this belief. It tells us that change is not an event. It is a process. A slow, almost invisible process. And this is where the book becomes deeply psychological. Sarah Harvey explains how our minds are wired to resist big goals. When we aim too high too quickly, our brain sees danger. It responds with fear, procrastination, and avoidance. Not because we are weak, but because our brain is trying to protect us. Kazan works with the brain, not against it. By choosing actions so small they feel almost laughable, we bypass resistance completely. You don't argue with yourself. You don't need motivation. You just begin. And beginning is everything. The book introduces the idea that consistency beats intensity every single time. A tiny habit done daily changes your identity. A huge effort done once only exhausts you. Sarah Harvey explains that habits are not about willpower. They are about design. If a habit feels too heavy, it will not survive real life. Kazan habits are designed to survive bad days. Days when you're tired. Days when you're sad. Days when everything feels off. On those days, doing something small keeps the chain alive. And that chain, that sense of continuity, is what creates momentum. The book also speaks softly but clearly about patience. In a world of instant results, patience feels outdated. But Kazan brings it back as a strength. Sarah Harvey reminds us that slow progress is still progress. And slow progress is often the most sustainable kind. You don't notice change day to day. But weeks later, months later, you look back and realize something important. You are no longer the same person. Not because of one big breakthrough, but because of hundreds of small, quiet choices. The book also addresses guilt, something many self-help books ignore. The guilt of missing a day. The guilt of falling off track. The guilt of not being disciplined enough. Kazan replaces guilt with curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" it asks, "What made this hard?" And that question changes everything. Because curiosity leads to adjustment. Adjustment leads to resilience. And resilience is what keeps you moving forward. Sarah Harvey also talks about self-trust. Because every tiny habit you complete sends a signal to your mind. I do what I say I'll do. And slowly, quietly, self-trust grows. You stop needing external motivation. You stop chasing inspiration. You become reliable to yourself. This is where Kazan becomes more than productivity advice. It becomes emotional healing. Because many of us don't struggle with habits. We struggle with believing in ourselves. Kazan rebuilds that belief gently. Without pressure. Without shame. Without unrealistic expectations. By now, the listener realizes something profound. Change does not require force. It requires friendship with yourself. And that understanding alone can change a life. As Kazan moves into its deeper layers, the focus quietly shifts from habits to identity. Not who you want to become someday, but who you are becoming right now. This is where Kazan reveals its most lasting insight. Small actions don't just change outcomes. They change how you see yourself. Sarah Harvey explains that identity is built through evidence. Every tiny promise you keep becomes proof. Proof that you are capable. Proof that you are consistent. proof that you can be trusted. And when identity changes, behavior follows naturally. You stop forcing yourself to act like a disciplined person. You begin acting from the belief that you already are one. This is why Kaizen feels different from loud motivation. It doesn't ask you to believe in yourself without reason. It helps you earn that belief. The book gently shows how chasing massive goals often delays confidence. We tell ourselves we'll feel proud after we achieve something big. But Kaizen flips this around. It says pride comes first. From showing up. From doing the small thing you said you would do today. Confidence, in this philosophy, is not a personality trait. It's a byproduct of consistency. As days pass, those tiny habits begin to stack. Not just on your schedule, but in your nervous system. You feel calmer, less rushed, less at war with yourself. Because you're no longer asking your mind to leap across mountains. You're asking it to take a step. And steps feel manageable. Sarah Harvey also talks about long-term thinking in a way that removes pressure. She reminds us that meaningful change rarely looks impressive in the moment. It looks ordinary. A short walk, a page read, a single sentence written, a glass of water chosen instead of another excuse. None of it feels life-changing today. But together, over time, they become undeniable. The book introduces a quiet but powerful reframe. You don't need to feel inspired to move forward. You need to feel safe enough to begin. Kaizen creates that safety. It gives you permission to be slow, permission to be imperfect, permission to build a life that fits your real energy, not an ideal version of it. And as this permission settles in, something surprising happens. You stop rushing toward the future. You start respecting the present. The book suggests that peace and progress are not opposites. They can exist together. You can grow without punishing yourself. You can improve without exhausting yourself. You can aim higher without hating where you are. This is why Kaizen resonates so deeply with people who feel burned out. It doesn't ask for more effort. It asks for better alignment. Alignment between who you are and what you attempt. Alignment between your goals and your capacity. And when that alignment exists, momentum feels natural. By now, the listener begins to sense a shift that is hard to describe but easy to feel. A steadiness. Not excitement. Not hype. Stability. The kind that lasts. The kind that makes change sustainable instead of fragile. And this is where the philosophy of Kaizen quietly becomes a way of living. You stop measuring success by dramatic milestones. You start measuring it by continuity. Did I return today? Did I try again? Did I keep the relationship with myself intact? Those questions become enough. As Kaizen moves toward its quiet ending, the book stops talking about improvement and starts talking about meaning. Because one's habits become gentle and consistent, they begin to ask a deeper question. What kind of life are you slowly building? This is where Kaizen by Sarah Harvey feels less like advice and more like companionship. The book reminds us that life is not lived in dramatic transformations. It is lived in ordinary mornings, in routines that repeat, in choices so small they almost feel invisible. And yet, those invisible choices are shaping everything. Sarah Harvey gently reframes success, not as a rival, not as a finish line, but as alignment. Are your days aligned with your values? Are your habits aligned with your energy? Is your growth aligned with your well-being? Kaizen teaches that speed is not the goal. Sustainability is, because a life you can't maintain will eventually collapse under its own pressure. The book talks about patience in a way that feels radical in the modern world. Patience not as waiting, but as trusting. Trusting that small effort is not wasted. Trusting that growth is happening even when you can't see it. Trusting that becoming takes time. This trust changes how you treat yourself. You stop rushing. You stop panicking about being behind. You stop measuring your life against highlight reels. Instead, you begin to ask gentler questions. What can I do today that respects my limits? What is the smallest step that still moves me forward? What would progress look like if it felt kind? And in answering those questions, something remarkable happens. You don't just become more productive, you become more peaceful. The book makes it clear that peace and ambition don't have to fight each other. You can want more from life without punishing yourself for not having it yet. Kazan encourages you to stay in relationship with your goals, not to attack them, not to chase them aggressively, but to walk with them, day by day, step by step. This philosophy changes how failure feels too. A mistake is no longer a disaster. It's a pause. A setback is no longer proof you can't do it. It's information. And because Kazan is built on return, you always know what to do next. You come back. You adjust. You continue. This is why the book feels so grounding. It removes drama from growth. And when drama disappears, consistency finally has room to live. As the final pages settle, the message becomes very clear. You don't need to become a new person overnight. You just need to keep becoming, slowly. Because slow change is not weak change. It's resilient change. And resilient change lasts. Kazan leaves the listener with a calm confidence. Not the kind that demands results immediately, but the kind that trusts the process. A confidence that says, I don't need to rush my life. I just need to stay with it. This is not a book that pushes you forward. It walks beside you. And sometimes, that's exactly what we need. Thank you for listening to English Bookshelf.